The vault door was still closed, but the floor beneath it was torn open. A security guard named Mike stood in the hallway of a Diamond District building, staring at a hole in the wall near the vault. Dust covered the ground like gray snow. Chunks of concrete lay everywhere, and the thick metal vault that was supposed to be impossible to break into had been beaten by something even stronger than steel. Time, planning, patience. A police officer shined a flashlight into the broken area and whispered, "They didn't rush this." Mike's voice shook. "They came back," he said. "They actually came back." "Came back?" the officer asked. Mike nodded fast. "They tried once, and then they returned the next night, like they weren't afraid at all." The officer's eyes narrowed. "So this wasn't just a robbery," he said. "This was a robbery planned for years." Inside the vault, hundreds of safety deposit boxes were damaged. Some were open. Some were empty. People kept valuables there: gold, jewelry, diamonds, cash. Things they thought would be safe forever. Now it was gone. Millions of dollars. Gone. And no one could believe who might have done it, because the first clue police found wasn't a fancy tool or a high-tech device. It was something that made the officer blink in surprise. A simple walking stick, left behind near the vault. The officer looked at it and then looked at Mike. "Who brings a walking stick to a robbery?" he asked. Mike swallowed. "Someone who wants you to think they're harmless," he whispered. The officer lifted the stick carefully, like it was evidence from a nightmare. And then a detective stepped into the room, holding a piece of paper. "We found the security camera footage," the detective said. Mike's heart jumped. "You saw their faces?" he asked. The detective shook his head slowly. "No," he said, "but we saw something worse." He turned the paper around. On it was a still image from the footage. A man in work clothes. Calm, unhurried, standing near the vault like he owned the place. The detective tapped the photo and said, "This guy didn't act like a desperate thief." He paused. He acted like he had been waiting years for this exact moment. Mike felt cold all over, because if the thief planned this for years, then this wasn't the end. This was just the beginning. A few weeks earlier, everything looked normal from the outside. Hatton Garden was a street famous for diamonds and jewelry. People called it the heart of London's jewelry world. In the daytime, the street was busy. Shiny shops, bright lights, people wearing suits, couriers carrying small cases that could hold huge value. But at night, the street changed. The shops closed. The lights dimmed. The street became quiet, like it was holding secrets. Deep under one of the buildings was a vault, a place where businesses and rich clients stored their most valuable items, a place protected by steel, cameras, alarms, and thick doors. Most people thought it couldn't be touched, but a small group of men had been watching it for a long time. They didn't talk about it in public. They didn't run around acting wild. They met quietly, like old friends having tea. One of them was named Raymond. Raymond looked like someone's grandpa. Gray hair, calm voice, slow steps. Another man was named Charlie. He wore a cap low on his head and kept his hands in his pockets. They didn't look like movie criminals. That's what made them dangerous. They had time. They had patience. And they had a plan. They studied the building. They learned when workers came and went. They watched delivery schedules. They listened for patterns. They talked about simple things like doors and locks and weekends. Then one day, Raymond said something that made the others stop talking. "Easter weekend," he said. Charlie frowned. "Why Easter?" Raymond smiled slightly. "Because the city slows down," he said. "People travel. Businesses close. Guards relax." Another man asked, "And if something goes wrong?" Raymond leaned back. "Then we return," he said. Return, like a plan that already had a second chance built into it. On Easter weekend, the streets were quieter than usual. The jewelry district felt empty. The building that held the vault sat still like a sleeping giant. Late at night, when most people were home, the men arrived, not in a loud car, not wearing masks like in cartoons. They wore work clothes, bright vests, gloves, hats. If anyone saw them, they could look like late-night repair workers. They entered the building carefully. No shouting, No running, just quiet steps and steady hands. Deep inside, they reached the vault area. The first night, they worked on a wall. Not the vault door, the wall near it. They drilled and hammered slowly, trying to break through. Dust fell. The sound echoed. Something in the building noticed. An alarm beeped. A warning. The men froze. For a moment, it felt like everything might collapse. Then Raymond whispered, "Stop. Pack up." Charlie stared at him. "We're close," he said. Raymond shook his head. "We don't get greedy," he said. "Not tonight." So they left. They walked out like nothing happened. They went home. They slept. And the next day, the world still didn't know. But Raymond knew something important. The first attempt was a test. Now he knew what the building would do. Now he knew what the building wouldn't do. And now he knew how to come back and finish it. That second night, the men returned to the vault with the same calm steps. Same clothes, same tools, same patience. And this time, they didn't stop when the wall cracked open. They kept going, because the robbery plan for years was about to succeed. The second night felt colder. The street outside was quiet, almost empty, like the city had fallen asleep early. The men moved like shadows, staying calm, not rushing, not panicking. Raymond led the way with steady steps, like he had walked this path 100 times in his mind. They reached the building and slipped inside. No yelling, no alarm screaming, just the soft sound of shoes on stone floors. In the basement, the air smelled like dust and old metal. Their flashlight beams cut through the darkness. The vault door stood in front of them like a giant, silent wall. Charlie whispered, "Same plan?" Raymond nodded. "Same plan," he said, "only cleaner." They didn't touch the vault door. They went straight to the weak spot they had started on the first night, the wall. One man pulled out tools that looked heavy and serious. Another laid down bags to catch dust. They worked with patience, like they were building something instead of breaking in. The wall slowly opened, crack by crack, piece by piece. Concrete fell away. A hole formed, and behind that hole was the vault space. Charlie's eyes widened. "We did it," he breathed. Raymond held up a finger. "Not yet," he said. "Quiet." They crawled through. Inside the vault, rows of safety deposit boxes sat like small treasure chests. The men stared at them for a second, and you could almost feel their excitement. But Raymond did not smile. He stayed careful. He knew the biggest danger was getting greedy and making mistakes. They began opening boxes with tools and calm hands. Some boxes were stuffed with jewelry. Some had stacks of cash. Some had small bags full of diamonds. Others held watches, gold bars, and papers. They didn't take everything. They took the best. They filled bags slowly, making sure nothing clanked loudly. They moved like they were in a library. Outside, the building stayed silent. No one came. No one noticed. Hours passed. Then finally Raymond said, "Time." Charlie frowned. "We can do more," he whispered. Raymond shook his head. "We stop before we get caught," he said. "That's how we stay free." They pulled their bags close and crawled back through the hole. They cleaned as best as they could, but dust still covered everything. They left behind small signs of their work, scrapes, broken concrete, and one strange item that would confuse police later, that walking stick. No one noticed them as they left. They didn't run. They didn't speed away. They walked out like workers ending a shift. By sunrise, they were gone, and the vault was emptied of millions. When the robbery was discovered, it hit like a bomb. People arrived at the building shouting and crying. A woman named Sarah ran into the lobby and begged to go downstairs. "My jewelry is in there," she cried. "My mother's ring. My family's gold." A business owner named David stared at the police tape with shaky hands. "That's my whole life down there," he said. Police officers filled the hallway. Detectives took photos. They measured the broken wall. They collected dust samples. They studied footprints and tool marks. Detective James Carter stood near the hole, his face tight. "This wasn't random," he said. "This was planned." An officer asked, "How long do you think they watched this place?" Detective Carter looked around slowly, long enough to know the weekends, long enough to know the alarms, long enough to know when no one would check. He pointed at the hole. They didn't fight the vault door, he said. They went around it. That takes brains and patience. Then another detective held up the walking stick in a plastic bag. Detective Carter stared at it. "This is odd," he muttered. A young officer laughed nervously. Maybe someone forgot it. Detective Carter didn't laugh. "No," he said. "This looks like it belongs to someone older." The officer frowned. "Older? Like how old?" Detective Carter's eyes narrowed. Old enough that people might not suspect him. That idea made the room feel colder, because most people imagine robbers as young and fast. Not calm, not patient, not elderly. But the Hatton Garden Heist was not a normal robbery. It was a robbery planned for years. That meant the thieves were not chasing quick money. They were chasing a final big score. And that meant they might be experienced. Police searched the city. They checked traffic cameras. They checked subway footage. They asked for tips. And tips came in, hundreds of them. But most were useless. Then something important happened. A technician reviewing security footage from a nearby area noticed something strange. A group of men, dressed like workers, moving near the building late at night. The footage was not clear enough to show faces well, but it showed their bodies, their pace, their calm movements. Detective Carter watched it again and again. "These guys aren't young," he said quietly. "How can you tell?" Another detective asked. Detective Carter pointed. "Their posture," he said. "The way they walk. They're careful, slow, like they've done this before." The detective paused the video. One man stepped into the light for half a second. His face was still unclear. But one detail stood out. He carried the walking stick. Detective Carter leaned closer. Then he said something that made everyone in the room go silent. That stick wasn't left by mistake. He looked at the team and added, "It was used, which means one of our thieves needs it. And if one of the thieves needed a walking stick, then someone out there, someone who didn't look like a criminal, was carrying millions in stolen diamonds and gold. And sooner or later, he would slip, because even the best plan can't stop time. And time was about to catch up with them. Time did catch up. Detective James Carter kept the walking stick on his desk. Every time he looked at it, he thought about the calm way the thieves moved, the patience, the years of planning. This was not a young crew chasing fast money. This was something else. Then a small mistake happened. One of the men talked. Not to police. Not on purpose. He talked to a friend. A man named Leonard went into a small repair shop to fix a drill. The worker noticed the drill looked heavy, powerful, and used. Leonard joked that it had worked overtime on a big job. He laughed too much. The worker remembered the news. The hole in the wall. The drill marks. The Easter weekend robbery. He called in a tip. Police didn't rush in. They watched. They followed Leonard quietly. They learned where he went, who he met, and what he talked about. Then they saw something that made everything click. Leonard met with Raymond. Raymond walked slowly, calm, gray hair, and in his hand, the walking stick. Detective Carter's team moved fast. They listened to phone calls. They watched meetings. They waited. And then, one morning, officers knocked on doors across the city. Raymond opened his door, wearing slippers. He looked surprised, but not scared. Leonard tried to joke his way out of it. Charlie stayed quiet, staring at the floor. The police searched their homes. They didn't find all the stolen treasure, but they found enough. Gold bars hidden in bags, loose diamonds wrapped in cloth, cash tucked away in strange places. Not everything was recovered, but the plan was finally exposed. In court, the story shocked everyone. The men were not young criminals. They were older. Some had walked with canes. Some had bad knees. Some had gray hair and calm voices. People called them the Grandpa Gang. But Detective Carter did not like that name. This wasn't funny, he said. This was serious crime. The courtroom listened as the plan was explained. How they watched the building for years. How they learned the routines. How they chose Easter weekend. how they tested the alarms, and came back the next night. The judge shook his head slowly. "You didn't rush," he said. "You waited." Raymond looked down. "Yes," he said quietly. "We waited." The men were found guilty. They were sent to prison. But the story did not end there, because the biggest question remained unanswered. Where was the rest of the stolen treasure? Millions of dollars in diamonds and jewelry were still missing. Some people believe the men hid it somewhere safe. Others believe parts of it were sold quietly, one piece at a time. The truth is, no one knows for sure. Even today, some of the stolen items from the Hatton Garden Heist have never been found. The vault was repaired. The wall was fixed. New alarms were added. But something was lost forever: the feeling of safety. Business owners learned a hard lesson. Strong doors and thick walls mean nothing without careful watch. Time and patience can be just as dangerous as force. Detective Carter retired years later. On his last day, he took one final look at the photos from the case. The hole in the wall, the empty boxes, the walking stick, a robbery plan for years. And almost perfect. He shook his head and said softly, "They were patient, but not patient enough." Because even the best plan leaves behind one thing criminals can't control: time. And time always tells the truth.